Hey guys, Rexasaur here, and welcome to the next episode of Total War Warhammer Lore, where today we'll be looking at the Tomb Kings. Once again, this will be slightly scripted by Brecht Tom, whose channel will be in the description below. Amazing guy who's given me a lot of information about both the Wood Elves and the Tomb Kings for today's episodes. So yeah, this is going to be once again kind of a bullet point scripted kind of format, so I'll be reading what he's wrote me, giving my ideas of units and stuff like that, with pictures for you to look at because pictures are cool. Anyway, Tomb Kings live in a desert called Nehekhara, which the capital city is called Khemri. The desert is located in the northern part of what basically is Africa. I don't think it actually has a name. I know that West Africa is called Araby, but I don't know what North Africa is actually called in the Warhammer lore. Doesn't really say. But basically, the Nehekhara is where the Tomb Kings live. And Tomb Kings are very, very comparable to ancient Egypt. They were once a race of men, taller and much more advanced than the barbarians that would later form the Empire and Bretonnia. They have their own gods from which the priests draw powers, and they don't really use the winds of magic as often as, say, men or elves or anything. Nehekhara was always split into multiple city-states, in the sense that there was no unified ruler until Settra, the Imperishable, came along. He conquered all the other kings and united Nehekhara under his rule. The Nekheharans were obsessed with the afterlife, just like the ancient Egyptians, but Settra even more so. He wanted his reign to go on forever. His priests managed to make elixirs to extend his life, but not indefinitely. Sometime after Settra came Nagash. He was the son of the king of Khemri, who got some Dark Elf prisoners into custody after his father's death, and he learnt black magic from them, which he developed into necromancy. Nagash's brother ascended to the throne, but Nagash wanted absolute power, so he killed his brother and usurped the throne. During his reign, he built the Black Pyramid, taller than Settra's, which is a very symbolic threat. The other kings of Nehekhara rose up against Nagash and defeated his army of skeletons, driving him off to Crippled Peak, where he built a new fortress, and fought off Skaven who wanted the mountain for themselves. The Queen of Lamia, another Nekheharan city, was Neferata, who came across one of Nagash's book and drank its elixir distilled from his blood. She shared it with 11 others, and that's how the 12 master vampires came into existence. And they buggered off and created vampire counts, which watch the previous video to know all about them. The reigning king of Khemri, Alcadizar the Conqueror, fought against Neferata and was winning, so Nagash decided, if I can't rule Nehekhara, nobody can. Thus he paid the Skaven to poison the river Vitae, comparable to the Nile, and it's killed a huge portion of the Nekheharan population. Meanwhile, Alcadizar was imprisoned by Nagash. Once the lot of people were dead, Nagash started casting a large spell the world had never seen. He tried to raise the entire dead population back to life as skeletons under his command. The Skaven decided this was getting out of hand, so Nagash had to go. Assassination is their thing, but so is not dirtying their own hands. They fashioned a blade of pure warpstone called the Fell Blade, and sneakily freed Alcadizar and gave him the blade. Alcadizar then used it to slay Nagash in an epic duel. However, the blade drove him insane and he disappeared as well. Much of the damage was already done, however. Many people, the long-dead kings, were resurrected. The difference between vampire counts is that because Nagash's spell wasn't completed, the Tomb Kings regained and retained their free will. One of the resurrected kings was Settra, who reassumed command of Nehekhara. He wasn't too happy with his less than splendid reawakening, though. Nagash came back to life 1111 years later, but was driven away by Settra, and he went to the Empire and got his skull bashed by Sigmar wielding Galmaraz, and that's the last we hear of Nagash until the end times. So that's the history of the Tomb Kings, and the inexplicable way that the Skaven managed to save the whole world from being overrun by skeleton soldiers. Because Skaven are badass, you know, they don't give two shits about your Nagashness. Anyway, the units of the Tomb Kings are split into two categories: the skeletons and the animated constructs, which are not the same at all. The skeletons are basically infantry, really, really crappy cavalry, and very good chariots, very much in the same way that Egypt is in, say, Rome 2. In the way that their infantry is better, their cavalry is okay, but their chariots is really where it's at. They also have catapults that throw magical, flaming, screaming skulls, and the incredibly sexy Casket of Souls. These are all powerful units on the tabletop, and the Casket of Souls itself is the embodiment of Tomb King magic, which I will go in a bit later. The animated constructs is everything that's not made of bone, basically anything that's not living. It's things made out of metal, stone, wood, gemstones. These include things such as Ushapti, I can't say that word, which are basically like jackal-headed constructs. You have like carrion birds, you have tomb scorpions, the necrolyph colossi, which are basically just giants. You have necropolis knights, or sepulchral. You have stalkers, and you have things like sphinxes, and you have a lot of really, really cool units that on the Total War battlefield will look really big, really scary, and that's exactly what they are. Characters wise, like as generals, they have things like Tomb Kings or Tomb Princes, which are really, really tough, but kind of easy to kill once you've got enough damage done on them. And you also have Leech Priests, which are basically the equivalent of wizards, but they're all there to give their kind of magic. Now, Tomb Kings are, in the mechanics kind of way, in the tabletop anyway, which I'm pretty sure we will see a kind of similar approach in the Total War of the game. The undead, all undead, are what's called in the tabletop unbreakable, which means they can never flee from battle. However, it also means that they're called unstable, which means if they seem to be losing combat, they'll sort of just collapse instead of run away. So we'll see how this ends up in the actual Total War game, but I'm sure it'll be around that way of if things start going bad, instead of running away, they'll just like collapse on the ground. Tomb King's units all start to crumble if you defeat what's called the Hierophant, who is basically the Leech Priest keeping everyone alive. So I don't know how that is also going to be shown on in the Total War game, because if, in my previous game, Total War and Creative Assembly decide to make wizards and everything with magical powers off the battle and work like if it was offshore artillery, then how would you destroy this one unit that's keeping everything held? Is it going to be a very different way? Is it going to be the general instead? And if you kill the general, everything dies, which I think it would be dumb, because we've seen in Attila how much of an issue that is already. Because if you kill the general in Attila, all your morale just drops to like 0, and it's a pain in the ass to get back. So that's going to be a very, very hard thing for CA to try and balance and stuff. And I would very, very interested in seeing how that works. Now, Tomb Kings are apparently, according to Brecht Tom, the best at magic, but due to many strategic bonuses, such as the Casket of Souls and other things. Lore-wise, they're not very powerful, as say the Slan or the High Elves, and Nagash, apparently. Nagash is the most powerful wizard on the planet, so there we go. But Tomb King magic is, I believe, I haven't faced a lot of Tomb Kings in the tabletop, but I know that Tomb Kings are very, very powerful when it comes to boosting their forces. They make their forces really fast, or make them really strong, or they're basically as if they had the Law of Life, but only for the undead, which is, so it's all about making them fast, making them strong, making them very tough against attacks. So if someone charges them, they don't actually lose any people. Plus, going that with the fact that Tomb King units are unbreakable, which means they can't run away from combat. They can last a very long time in combat. They also have these massive animated construct units, which just bash their way through, killing things left, right, and center. And they have these amazingly strong animated constructs, which I think are the necrolyph colossi. I might be wrong, but basically they have something called the heroic killing blow, which can basically instantly kill any other person that's a giant. Basically, they can one-hit kill a giant, which is incredibly powerful, and was the first unit in the whole of the Warhammer tabletop to ever have that rule, which makes it very scary when you think about it. But there we go. So that's Tomb Kings. In my opinion, they're going to be very similar to vampire counts, in the way that you're going to be able to resurrect large units from the ground, or just like form them up.
But it's going to be very interesting to see how Creative Assembly put magic into the game. And from that, we're going to be able to think more about how Tomb Kings are going to work. Tomb Kings are not going to be one of the first races in the game, so it means that we're going to have a whole Total War Warhammer to think about until what happens next. But they're going to be really interesting. I really like Tomb Kings. I really like ancient history in real life. So everything ancient history based is going to be fucking amazing, isn't it? So I really like Tomb Kings. I really like the kinds of units they have, the way they look, and their sexy magic, and the whole history is great. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would like to thank once again Brett Tom. His channel is in the description below, for giving me all this information and all this kind of scripted things. I hope you guys appreciate it as much as I do. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will be seeing you all next time.